The road from the village to Lagos had been long, almost endless. Amara had never traveled beyond Nsukka in her life, so when the bus pulled into the crowded Ojuelegba Bridge, with its mess of yellow buses, shouting hawkers, and loud preachers, she almost thought she had stepped into another world. The air smelled of fried akara, petrol fumes, and something she couldn't name, something heavy that hung over the city. But Lagos was a place where destinies changed. Her late mother had always said, "Amara, your feet will one day take you farther than mine ever did. Don't be afraid when the road opens." Those words rang in her ears as she sat clutching her small bag tightly to her chest. The memory of her mother was a painful ache. Mama had died 3 years ago, leaving her to live with her step-aunt, a woman who reminded her daily that she was a burden. The aunt had pushed her into this job without mercy, saying, "Better you go and scrub floor for big man in Lagos than eat my food for free here." So here she was, alone, anxious, but also strangely determined. The first sight of wealth. When the driver dropped her at Folomo Bridge, and she crossed into Ikoyi, the world changed instantly. Gone were the cracked roads and noisy markets. Here, the houses hid behind high walls, electric fences, and cameras that blinked like watchful eyes. Tall palm trees swayed gently in the evening breeze, and expensive cars rolled silently on smooth asphalt. Her sandals clapped against the pavement as she hesitated, wondering if she was in the right place. Then a deep voice broke her thoughts. "You be Amara?" The man in black suit and dark sunglasses was leaning against a sleek Range Rover Velar. He was so still he almost blended with the car, like part of its body. "Yes, sir," she said nervously. He didn't smile. "Enter. Chief Day wait." Amara's stomach knotted. Was this how rich people welcome new workers? Without a smile? Without even small talk? Still, she obeyed, slipping into the cool interior. As the car glided through Ikoyi's narrow lanes, she caught glimpses of grand mansions with golden gates, marble fountains, and walls so tall they seemed to touch the sky. She whispered to herself, "So this is the life rich people live. And, God, where are you when poor people like me suffer?" When the car finally stopped, her heart skipped. The mansion was unlike anything she had ever seen. Its gate alone was taller than 3 men standing on each other's shoulders, painted black with golden lions carved into it. Armed guards with rifles stood by, their eyes blank but watchful. The Range Rover slid past them and entered a wide compound tiled with imported marble. The house itself rose like a palace, 3 stories high, with massive white pillars at the entrance. At the top of the building, statues of strange winged creatures perched, staring down with stone eyes. The sight froze Amara. Something about the house looked wrong. Too quiet. Too alive. "Move," the driver said coldly, breaking her trance. Her slippers tapped against the cold tiles as she followed a waiting maid into the house. Inside, the air changed again. It was cooler, perfumed with something rich and strange. A giant chandelier hung from the ceiling, scattering rainbow lights across marble floors. Paintings lined the walls, paintings of half-naked men with spears, masks with hollow eyes, and rivers painted blood red. Amara swallowed hard. Her gaze fell on a huge staircase at the center, spiraling upward like a coiled snake. From somewhere deeper in the mansion came the faint sound of drums, slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The billionaire appears. Then came the sound of footsteps. Firm, deliberate. The staff straightened instantly. Some lowered their heads. Others stepped back, pressing themselves against the wall. Chief Obinna appeared at the top of the staircase. He was dressed in a flowing white kaftan embroidered with gold, and around his neck hung a heavy chain that glowed faintly under the chandelier. He was tall, broad, with a bald head that caught the light. His skin was dark and smooth, but his eyes, those eyes were sharp, piercing, calculating. They seemed to pierce through her body, stripping her of all her secrets. "So," he said slowly, his deep voice filling the hall. "This is the new girl." Amara bent low. "Good afternoon, sir." "Respectful," he said. His lips curved faintly, though not in a smile. "You will do well here, if you follow the rules." "Yes, sir." He waved a dismissive hand at the senior maid. "Ngozi, show her. Tell her everything she needs to know." As she was led away, Amara felt his gaze burning into her back. The maid's quarters were hidden at the back of the mansion. Small, clean, with bunk beds arranged tightly. As soon as they entered, Ngozi shut the door and lowered her voice. Listen, girl. You are in a house of wealth, yes, but also a house of secrets. Chief is not an ordinary man. If you want to live long here, obey these rules. Never enter Chief's private study. Never look directly into his eyes for too long. Never question why he disappears at night. And most important, she paused, her eyes darting nervously. Never go near the basement. The basement, Amara repeated softly. Ngozi's face tightened. At night, you will hear things. Chains, voices, maybe even crying. Pretend you don't hear. Sleep. If you value your life, never check. Amara's chest grew tight. She wanted to ask more, but the warning in Ngozi's eyes silenced her. That night, Amara lay awake on the lower bunk, staring at the ceiling. The air was heavy, thick with perfume and something metallic, like blood. The other maids snored lightly, but Amara's ears caught everything. The ticking of the giant grandfather clock in the hall, the whisper of wind through the tall windows, and then, footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming from below. Her body stiffened. The sound grew louder, dragging, as though chains scraped the floor. Then came voices, deep, chanting voices rising in rhythm. They spoke in a language she didn't understand, yet the sound sent chills down her spine. Her eyes darted toward the corridor. Somewhere beyond the back staircase, the forbidden basement door waited. She clutched her Bible tightly. God, please, don't let me die here. Curiosity. The sound grew louder, clearer, filling the air with dread. Amara's curiosity battled with her fear. Ngozi's warning screamed in her head. If you value your life, don't ever check. But her feet moved on their own. Quietly, she slid out of bed, crept to the door, and tiptoed down the corridor. The deeper she went, the colder the air became. Her breath fogged. Her heart pounded against her ribs. There it was, the basement door. Heavy wood, carved with strange symbols she didn't recognize. Faint red light glowed through the cracks. Chains rattled inside. She leaned closer. Suddenly, a sound tore through the silence, the cry of a child. Amara stumbled back, her hands trembling. Jesus, she whispered under her breath. But before she could move further, another sound froze her in place. The front gate groaned open. Heavy footsteps entered the mansion. Peeking from behind the staircase, Amara's blood ran cold. Chief Obinna had returned. His flowing white kaftan was soaked, not with water, but with blood. Dark, wet stains dripped down his arms. In his hand, he carried a small black calabash, steam rising from it as though it boiled with unseen fire. Servants rushed forward, but not a single one asked questions. They bowed their heads and cleared his path. Amara's knees trembled as she ducked deeper into the shadows. Chief Obinna stopped briefly at the bottom of the staircase. His sharp eyes scanned the hall, as though sensing something. For a heartbeat, Amara thought he saw her. Then, without a word, he walked toward the basement door. The chanting voices rose instantly, louder, hungrier. The door creaked open. Chief stepped inside, and the door slammed shut. The mansion fell silent once more, except for the faint echo of drums rising from the deep. Amara pressed her back against the cold wall, her chest heaving. She had only been in this house for one day, but already she knew. This was no ordinary billionaire and no ordinary job. And something inside that basement was waiting. The first weeks of Amara's new life in Chief Obinna's mansion seemed almost ordinary. She cleaned the polished marble floors, washed the expensive plates that gleamed like mirrors, and ironed the man's endless suits and agbatas. Every evening, she cooked simple food, though the chief often ate only a little before retreating into his study. Yet, beneath the normal housework, something strange pressed against her spirit. The mansion was too quiet. Even with all its beauty, the silence inside felt alive, like an unseen force was watching her. At night, when the chandeliers dimmed and the compound's dogs stopped barking, Amara often thought she heard faint whispers in the walls, whispers too soft to catch, but persistent enough to steal her sleep. She never dared tell the chief. He was a man of power and respect. People in Lagos spoke his name with both envy and fear. To her, he was kind but distant, carrying the weight of secrets in his eyes. But the house did not hide its secrets well. It was a Friday night, the first night Amara dared to explore beyond her quarters after midnight. She had been lying in bed when she heard a low, rhythmic sound. At first, she thought it was the generator humming. But no, the mansion's generator had gone off hours earlier. This sound was different. It was a chant. A deep, throbbing chant, rising and falling like waves. Her heart pounded. Fear told her to stay in bed, but curiosity pulled her up. Barefoot, she crept into the corridor, hugging the wall. The marble tiles felt cold against her toes. From the far end of the hallway, where the chief's private study stood, came a faint red glow, the kind of glow you would expect from fire, though there was no fire in the house. As she drew closer, the chanting became clearer. The voice was not Chief Obinna's. It was deeper, layered, almost inhuman. Amara pressed her ear to the study door. Obugi ka ani horo. I gagi ezraani. Iga azaputa I nearani naka. It is you we have chosen. You cannot escape us. You will deliver what you placed in our hands. The words chilled her blood. She did not fully understand the Igbo incantation, but the tone, commanding, dark, otherworldly, sank into her bones. Then she heard Chief Obinna's voice. Softer, trembling. Great ones, give me more time. I have given enough. I cannot. Amara's breath caught in her throat. She clutched her wrapper tightly against her chest, her knees shaking. The chanting stopped. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Then came a single reply, a voice like dry leaves cracking underfoot. More will be taken. And then silence. Amara staggered backward, nearly falling. She ran back to her room, locked the door, and pressed her hands against her ears. She did not sleep that night. The next morning, Chief Obinna appeared at breakfast looking paler than usual. His eyes were red, his movements slow. He forced a smile when Amara greeted him, but she noticed his hands trembling slightly as he lifted his teacup. She wanted to ask if he was all right, but the words refused to form. Instead, she served him yam and egg sauce, pretending nothing was wrong. But in her heart, questions piled up. Who was the chief speaking to? Who were those voices? What did they mean by more will be taken? Days passed, and the mansion revealed more strangeness. When Amara dusted the chief's study during the day, she noticed strange carvings on the wooden shelves. They were symbols she had never seen before, circles with slashes, triangles inside spirals, marks that seemed to twist if you stared too long. She also found a locked drawer inside the study desk. The chief always kept the key around his neck. Sometimes, when he was away, she would kneel by that drawer and place her ear against it. She swore she could hear faint scratching from inside, as though something, or someone, was trapped there. At night, the whispers in the walls grew louder. Sometimes they called her name. Amma, Amma. Once, she jolted awake to find a shadow standing at the foot of her bed. Its shape was tall, too tall, its arms stretching unnaturally long. But when she screamed and lit her kerosene lamp, the shadow melted into the wall. Her fear deepened, but so did her curiosity. She began to believe the mansion itself was alive, built on something dark. It happened 3 weeks later. Chief Obinna left for a business trip to Abuja, leaving the mansion in her care. He told her not to enter the underground cellar, a door hidden at the back of the house, near the garden. His tone was unusually sharp when he gave the warning. Amara, he said, locking the cellar with a heavy brass key. This place is not for you. If you value your life, do not go near it. She nodded obediently, but the warning only fed her curiosity. That night, when the compound fell silent, Amara crept outside. The air was heavy, the moon casting long shadows across the grass. She stood before the locked cellar door. For minutes, she hesitated. Every part of her screamed go back. But something stronger, the same force that made her press her ear against the study door weeks earlier, pushed her forward. The lock looked old, but strong. She touched it, and her skin prickled as though fire passed through her fingertips. Then, as if responding to her touch, the lock snapped open. The heavy chain slid to the ground by itself. Amara gasped. The door creaked open, revealing stairs spiraling downward into darkness. Holding her lantern high, she stepped inside. The shrine beneath. The air grew colder the deeper she went. The lantern flame flickered wildly, struggling to stay alive. At the bottom of the stairs, she entered a room that stole her breath away. The walls were covered in blood-red markings. Cowrie shells hung from ropes. Clay pots filled with black liquid lined the floor. At the center stood a massive wooden idol, carved in the shape of a horned figure with hollow eyes that seemed to follow her. Before the idol lay dozens of items: jewelry, clothes, photographs, and even bones. Human bones. Amara's knees weakened. She nearly dropped her lantern. She stepped closer, her eyes scanning the offerings. Then her breath caught. She saw something that froze her heart. Among the items on the shrine was a small framed picture of a young woman. The same woman she had once seen in a newspaper clipping in the chief's study. The headline had called her Chief Obinna's late wife. So it was true. His wife's death had not been natural. Amara's hands trembled as she reached out to touch the frame. But before her fingers brushed it, the idol's hollow eyes seemed to glow faintly red. A whisper filled the room. She was the first. Amara screamed, dropping the lantern. Darkness swallowed her instantly. In the pitch black, she heard footsteps. Not hers, not human. Slow, deliberate, circling her. She bolted up the stairs, her wrapper flapping wildly around her legs. She burst through the cellar door, slammed it shut, and ran back inside the house, collapsing on the floor, gasping for air. Her body shook, her spirit trembled. She knew now. Chief Obinna had made a covenant sealed with blood, and the mansion itself was part of it. When Chief Obinna returned 2 days later, he found Amara pale, quiet, and restless. She avoided his eyes, her hands trembling as she served him food. He noticed. He studied her carefully, his face expressionless. "Amara," he said finally. His voice was calm, but heavy. "Did you go where I told you not to go?" Her throat went dry. She shook her head quickly. "No, sir." His eyes lingered on her for a long moment, as though he could see through her soul. Then, slowly, he smiled. "Good girl." But in that smile, Amara saw something terrifying. Not relief, not trust, but knowledge. He knew. He knew she had seen the shrine. And from that night, the mansion grew even darker. It was not the kind of darkness that came when the light was off or when the moon hid behind clouds. No, this darkness was alive. It seeped into the air, into the walls, into the very skin of the house. It followed Amara wherever she went, watching, listening. She noticed it first in small things. The mirrors in the hallways no longer showed her reflection clearly. Sometimes her face appeared blurred, stretched, or cracked like broken glass. Sometimes, when she turned quickly, she thought she saw another woman's face in the mirror, standing exactly where she was. The voices in the walls became louder, less shy. They no longer whispered only her name. They began to speak sentences, words that made no sense, and yet carried weight in her chest. Sometimes they laughed, mocking laughter that followed her from room to room. The dogs in the compound refused to enter the main house. At night, they barked and wailed toward the windows as if warning her of something they could see, but she could not. And Chief Obinna, he changed too. Before, the chief had been stern but polite, his voice calm and his smile soft, even if rare. Now, his patience thinned quickly. He barked orders instead of speaking requests. He paced the house at night like a restless animal, muttering under his breath, his agbada dragging like a shadow behind him. He ate less, but drank more palm wine. His eyes grew redder, his hands more unsteady. His skin seemed to age quickly, lines cutting deeper into his face. But worst of all were the nights when Amara heard him crying. Not small cries, not the quiet tears of a tired man, but deep, broken sobs that shook the walls. One night, unable to stop herself, Amara crept close to his room. She pressed her ear to the door and heard him speaking through his sobs. "Please, please, not her. Take me instead. Take me, I beg you." Amara froze. She knew in that moment. He was not crying to himself. He was crying to the spirits. And though she wanted to run, though she wanted to escape the mansion that very night, something stronger kept her there. It was not just fear. It was pity. Somewhere deep inside, she felt that Chief Obinna was a prisoner too. A prisoner of the covenant. It was the 3rd week after the cellar incident when Amara began to notice the signs clearly. Every Friday, just before midnight, the chief would lock himself in the study. The red glow would return, leaking through the bottom of the door. Strange smells, palm oil, blood, burning herbs, filled the corridor. The walls would hum, and the whispers would grow louder, almost chanting with him. One night, she heard more than whispers. She heard footsteps behind her. She was walking past the study when the sound of bare feet slapped against the marble floor behind her. Her heart leapt. She spun around, but no one was there. Only shadows stretching unnaturally long, reaching toward her. She dropped the tray of water she was carrying. The glass shattered loudly, echoing through the house. The study door creaked open, and Chief Obinna stepped out. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands stained with something dark. He looked at her with an expression she had never seen before, fear mixed with anger. "Amara," he said, his voice hoarse. "You must never walk these halls at midnight. Do you hear me? Never." She nodded quickly, her body trembling. But deep inside, she knew she could not obey. The mansion itself seemed determined to pull her deeper, to show her everything. One afternoon, while cleaning the study, Amara discovered something new. She had been dusting the bookshelves when a loose paper slipped from between two thick law books. She picked it up. It was an old newspaper clipping. "Mysterious death of young Lagos philanthropist's wife raises questions." The picture showed Chief Obinna, younger but still recognizable, standing beside a beautiful woman. The woman looked gentle, with soft eyes and a radiant smile. Amara's heart clenched. It was the same woman whose framed photograph she had seen at the shrine beneath the mansion. She read further. The article claimed the wife had died suddenly in her sleep, with no illness or cause of death found. Doctors called it a mystery, but neighbors whispered. They said the woman had been troubled in her last days, speaking of nightmares, shadows, and voices. Amara's hands shook as she folded the clipping back. She replaced it where she had found it, but her mind burned with questions. Could it be that Chief Obinna had given his own wife to the covenant? Her spirit rebelled against the thought, but the evidence was clear. It was the dead of night when the truth revealed itself more clearly. Amara awoke to the sound of her door creaking open. Her heart raced. She sat up quickly, clutching her wrapper. A figure stood at the doorway. It was Chief Obinna, but his eyes were not his own. They glowed faintly red, like the idol's eyes in the cellar. He stepped into the room slowly, his feet dragging. His agbada rustled like dry leaves. "Amara," he said, his voice low, almost two voices at once. "You should not be here." Her breath caught. She whispered, "Sir?" He staggered closer, his face pale, sweat dripping down his temples. For a moment, his eyes flickered back to normal. He looked at her, terrified, as if begging her to understand. Then, in a voice that was not his, he said, "She will be next." Amara screamed. The chief collapsed on the floor, shaking violently as though gripped by invisible hands. His body twisted, his mouth foaming. Amara knelt beside him, crying out, "Sir! Sir!" She held his head, praying desperately in broken whispers. "Jesu, help us. Jesu, have mercy." After minutes that felt like hours, his body stilled. His breathing steadied. Slowly, his eyes opened, his normal eyes, filled with shame and sorrow. He whispered hoarsely, "You should have run, Amara. You should never have stayed." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Why, sir? What is happening to you?" But he turned away, unable to answer. The next morning, he called her into the study. His face was haggard, his shoulders heavy as though carrying a mountain. He poured palm wine into a glass, but did not drink it. He simply stared at it. "Amara," he said quietly, "do you believe in covenants?" She hesitated. I have heard of them, sir." He nodded slowly. "When I was a young man, I wanted power. I wanted riches. Lagos is not kind to men who come from nothing. So I went to men who knew things. Men who served spirits older than the city itself." He paused, his voice trembling. "I gave them promises. Promises sealed with blood. And they gave me wealth. They gave me everything. But they never stop asking. Every blessing comes with a curse." Amara's hands shook. What did you give them?" His eyes closed tightly. His lips quivered. First goats. Then cows. Then, he could not continue. His voice broke. Tears filled Amara's eyes. "Your wife." His silence was the answer. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it would burst. "And now," he whispered, "they want you." The words crushed her. She felt her spirit leave her body. "Me?" she breathed. He nodded slowly, his face broken. "I begged them to spare you. I offered them myself. But they do not want me anymore. They want youth. Innocence. They want you." Amara stood frozen, her wrapper slipping from her shoulder, her whole body trembling. The room seemed to spin. The whispers in the walls grew louder, almost laughing. She finally managed to speak. Her voice cracked, but it carried fire. "No, they cannot have me." Her defiance echoed in the room. But the idol's shadow on the study wall seemed to grow larger, darker, as if mocking her words. And in that moment, Amara knew her battle had only just begun. The night after Chief Obinna's revelation, Amara could not sleep. She lay on her small bed in the servants' quarters, her heart pounding like drums. Every creak of the old wood, every sigh of the wind against the shutters, sounded like a spirit calling her name. The mansion itself seemed to breathe heavier. The shadows on the walls danced like living things. And the whispers, they were no longer hidden in the walls. They pressed close to her ears, speaking words that were half Igbo, half something older, something not meant for human tongues. Her body trembled, but her spirit grew stubborn. She whispered to herself, "I am not theirs. I belong to God. I will not fear." But her courage cracked when she closed her eyes and saw a vision. A black river filled with faces, all reaching for her, mouths open in silent screams. She woke up drenched in sweat, her wrapper soaked. She knew then, running would not save her. The covenant had already marked her. The next morning, as she fetched water from the borehole in the compound, she noticed a woman standing at the gate. The woman wore a long red wrapper and a faded blouse. Her head was wrapped in a black scarf. Her eyes were sharp, piercing. She looked like one of those market women who had seen too much of life. "Amara," the woman called softly. Amara froze. How did she know her name? The woman stepped closer to the gate, glancing around to be sure no guards were watching. She whispered, "Child, you are in danger. The covenant has chosen you." Amara's mouth went dry. Her knees weakened. "Who are you?" "I am Mama Ifioma," the woman said. "I knew your master's wife. I knew what happened here. The spirits will not stop until they take what they are owed." Amara's heart raced. "What do I do?" The woman's eyes softened, but her voice was heavy. "You must decide, to fight or to be taken. But fighting will cost you more than you can imagine." Before Amara could ask more, one of the guards shouted from the veranda, "Hey, who dey there?" When Amara turned back, the woman was gone. The street was empty, as if no one had ever been there. That evening, Amara returned to the cellar. Something in her spirit pushed her there, though fear weighed on her steps. She opened the door, and her breath caught. The single shrine she had seen before had multiplied. Now there were 7 idols, each different in shape and size. Some were carved of wood, others of stone. One was nothing but a skull with red cloth tied around it. Candles burned at their feet, though no one had lit them. Palm oil dripped like blood on the floor. The air smelled of death and iron. Amara's knees buckled. She clutched the wall, whispering, "Jesus, cover me." But the moment she spoke the name, the candles flickered violently, and the largest idol's eyes glowed brighter. A voice, deep and layered, filled the cellar. "She cannot save you." Amara staggered back, her ears ringing. She ran from the cellar, slamming the door shut behind her. Later that night, Chief Obinna called her again to the study. His hands shook as he poured palm wine. He looked older, weaker, as if the covenant itself was draining him. "Amara," he said, "I told you what they want. But I will not let them take you. I have decided. I will end it." Amara's eyes widened. "End it? How?" He looked at her with hollow eyes. "There is a ritual. If I give my life willingly, they may release you." Tears filled her eyes. Despite all his faults, despite the blood on his hands, she pitied him. "Sir, is that not dangerous?" He gave a broken laugh. "Everything with them is dangerous. But if I do nothing, they will devour you." She reached for his hand, surprising herself. "Then let me help. Tell me what to do." For a moment, his eyes softened, as if he saw in her the daughter he never had. But then he shook his head. "No. If you help me, they will mark you forever. You must stay away." That same week, the mansion became unbearable. Doors slammed shut on their own. Lights flickered even when the generator was running. Food in the kitchen rotted overnight. Rats appeared, gnawing at the walls though the house had always been spotless. Amara's dreams grew worse. She dreamt of the chief's late wife, her white wrapper stained with blood, reaching out to her. One night, the dream turned into reality. She woke up to find the woman standing at the foot of her bed, her face pale, her eyes hollow. Amara screamed and clutched her Bible. The woman whispered, "Save him, or he will drag you with him." Then she vanished into smoke. Amara wept into her pillow until dawn. On the 4th night, Amara entered the study to clean. Chief Obinna was away at a meeting. As she dusted the shelves, she noticed a leather-bound book tucked behind files. Her curiosity overcame her fear. She pulled it out. The book was old, the leather cracked, the pages yellowed. Strange symbols were carved into the cover. Inside, she found drawings of shrines, rituals, blood sacrifices, names of spirits, Ekwensu, Ogbanj, Ogbunali, written in ink that looked too dark to be ordinary. And there, in the margins, Chief Obinna's handwriting. They promised me wealth, but they did not tell me the cost. I have given them too much. If anyone finds this, forgive me. Amara's stomach churned. She realized this was not just Chief Obinna's covenant. It was a curse passed down from the spirits themselves. She slammed the book shut, her hands trembling. But as she did, a gust of cold wind blew through the study, though the windows were closed. The whispers rose again, louder, clearer. Amara, her body went numb. She dropped the book and ran. That night, she found Chief Obinna in the living room, sitting in the dark. He held his wife's photograph in one hand, a bottle of palm wine in the other. His eyes were red, swollen from tears. "They are winning, Amara," he whispered. "I can't stop them anymore." She knelt beside him, tears streaming. "No, sir. You can fight. We can fight." He shook his head. "You don't understand. Once you make blood covenant with them, there is no escape. They own you. They own your blood, your family, your future." Amara's chest tightened. But deep inside, a spark lit within her. She remembered Mama Ifeoma's warning. Fight or be taken. She stood, her fists clenched. "Then I will fight, even if it kills me." Chief Obinna looked up at her, shocked. For the first time, a faint smile touched his lips, though it was filled with sadness. "You are braver than me, child," he said softly. The spirits did not take her declaration lightly. That same night, the attacks grew violent. As Amara prayed in her room, the walls shook. The lights went out. A shadowy hand reached out from under her bed, grabbing her ankle. She screamed, pulling free, jumping onto the mattress. The door flung open, slamming against the wall. Chief Obinna rushed in, holding a wooden staff coated in palm oil. He swung it at the shadow, and the thing hissed before vanishing. He was panting, his face drenched in sweat. "They know," he said. "They know you are resisting." Amara, shaking, whispered, "Then let them know. I will never give myself." The chief stared at her, torn between pride and despair. And for the first time, they stood together, no longer master and maid, but two souls trapped in the same prison, daring to fight against the covenant. And that was how the battle truly began. The night Lagos refused to sleep came cloaked in thick harmattan fog, as though the heavens themselves wanted to hide what was about to happen inside Chief Obinna's mansion. Amara stood barefoot in the great hall. The marble floor was cold beneath her feet, and her white maid's uniform clung to her damp skin. She was not the same timid village girl who first walked through these gilded doors. She had become something else, something forged by fear, desperation, and the spirits that stalked this house. The mansion's chandeliers flickered wildly, though there was no wind. The air hummed with unseen voices. Some whispered her name softly, almost tenderly. Others hissed with venom, calling her an intruder. And in the middle of the hall knelt Chief Obinna. Once the mighty Lagos billionaire with polished agbada, gold wristwatches, and cars lined like soldiers in his compound. He now looked like a beggar before his own gods. His agbada was torn, his head unshaven, his eyes sunken as though life itself had been drained from him. "Amara," his voice cracked, low but heavy. "You should have run when I warned you. You should have never looked deeper." But Amara didn't flinch. Her fists were clenched, her breath steady. Behind her, the altar she had uncovered, hidden beneath the mansion's floorboards, burned with eerie blue flames. The wooden idols carved like half-human, half-animal figures seemed alive now, their eyes glimmering with hunger. "You think you can scare me?" Amara's voice trembled, but it carried steel. "I know everything. The covenant. The sacrifices. The blood that keeps your wealth alive." Obinna's lips quivered. "You don't understand. This wealth, this power, it comes with chains. They own me, Amara. If I fail them, they will take my soul. And not just mine. They will drag down anyone who stands in the way." Amara took a step closer. The shadows lengthened as if trying to swallow her. "Then I'll stand anyway," she whispered. The mansion shook. Mirrors cracked. Portraits fell from the walls. and the very ground beneath them seemed to breathe. From the altar, figures began to emerge, spectral forms of men and women, their faces twisted in agony. Some wore rags of the past, some expensive suits, some made uniforms just like Amara's. Their eyes were hollow, but their voices were loud. "You cannot break the covenant, Chief Obinna. You fed us with their blood. Now you must give us hers. The maid belongs to us." The chorus rattled the hall. Amara felt her knees weaken, but she stood firm. She looked at Chief Obinna, who now wept like a broken child. His hands shook as he reached toward her. "Amara, they want you. If I give you to them, maybe they'll spare me." Silence fell between them. For a moment, Amara thought of her village, her mother who sold akara by the roadside, her little brother who waved at her the day she left for Lagos. She thought of the promises she made to herself, that she would serve, work hard, and one day make life better for her family. But here she was, face to face with the devil's bargain. "Chief," Amara said softly, tears filling her eyes, "you have lived your life feeding them. You chose greed over humanity. You gave them your family, your workers, even strangers. But she placed her hand on her chest. "I will not run. I will not be their meal." The spirits roared. The blue flames grew higher. One of the idols cracked open, and from it slithered a serpent with human eyes. Its tongue flicked toward Amara, tasting her fear. Chief Obinna fell flat on the floor, pounding his fists. Please, don't take her. Take me instead." But the spirits laughed. "Your soul is already ours. It is too weak. The maid is pure. Her blood will strengthen the covenant." Amara's heart raced. She felt the serpent coil around her legs, dragging her closer to the altar. She screamed, clawing at the air. And then, it happened. She remembered the small wooden cross her mother pressed into her palm before she left the village. She had tucked it into her uniform pocket, forgotten until now. Her trembling fingers reached for it. As soon as the cross touched the serpent's scales, a scream like thunder erupted. The creature recoiled, smoke rising from its body. The spirits shrieked, shielding their eyes from the burning light. Amara's eyes glowed with something not of this world. She felt power coursing through her veins. Not hers, but borrowed from something higher, something beyond the spirits of wealth and death. She turned to Chief Obinna, who crawled toward her, clutching her ankles like a drowning man. "Save me, Amara," he begged. "Please, save me." Tears streamed down her cheeks. She knew what must be done. "Chief, the only way to end this is with a sacrifice. But not mine, not yours." The spirits howled in fury, swirling around them. The covenant must be fed, blood for blood, soul for soul. Amara took a deep breath, lifting the cross high. "Then take me, but not as your victim. Take me as your destroyer." She stepped into the flames of the altar. Chief Obinna screamed, "Inolo!" The spirits lunged at her, clawing, biting, tearing. But the light from the cross consumed the flames. The idols cracked, shattering into dust. The voices of the spirits wailed and vanished one by one. And in that moment, Amara's body fell limp. Her last vision was of her mother smiling, her brother waving, and the sky opening above her. The mansion was silent. Chief Obinna staggered to his feet, his agbada now soaked in tears and sweat. The altar was gone, reduced to ashes. The spirits had fled, but so had Amara. He stumbled through the empty hall, calling her name. "Amara, Amara," but only silence answered. For the first time in decades, Chief Obinna was free. No whispers, no shadows, no demands for blood. But his freedom was bought with the life of the only soul who ever dared to save him. He collapsed on the floor, wailing like a child. His wealth still sat in the bank. His cars still gleamed in the garage. His mansion still stood tall in Lagos. But without Amara, he was the poorest man alive. News spread weeks later. Neighbors said Chief Obinna had locked himself away, refusing to see anyone. His businesses crumbled. His friends deserted him. At night, some swore they still heard him crying Amara's name. But in her village, word came that Amara's mother began to prosper strangely. Customers flooded her akara stand. Her little brother won a scholarship. It was as if unseen hands now blessed everything she touched. And sometimes, in dreams, her mother saw Amara standing by a river, dressed in white, smiling peacefully. The girl who uncovered the billionaire's secret had given her life to save him. And in doing so, she saved her family, too. The tale spread like wildfire, told in whispers across Lagos, then across Nigeria. And it always ended the same way. Beware of wealth bought in blood. For one day, an Amara will rise to uncover it. And so ends the haunting tale of the maid who uncovered a billionaire's secret and saved him. This story reminds us that in the pursuit of wealth, there are powers darker than the human eye can see. Amara's courage and sacrifice shine as a warning and a lesson for all who chase riches without counting the spiritual cost. If you followed this story until the very end, then you know this is more than just a tale. It is a mirror of the choices many still make in our world today. If this story moved you, don't just watch and scroll away. Subscribe now to Spiritual African Stories and turn on your notification bell so you never miss another suspenseful tale from the heart of Africa. Every week, we bring you stories that mix reality, folklore, and the supernatural, crafted to keep you thinking long after the video ends. Liking and sharing this video helps the channel grow and tells YouTube to show it to more people who love African stories just like you. Now we'd love to hear from you. If you were in Amara's shoes, would you have made the same sacrifice? Or would you have chosen survival over redemption? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. Stay tuned, because the next story might be even darker, deeper, and more unforgettable than this one.